Hi there and welcome to this week's vlog, and I've got something to show you today. One of the things I really enjoy doing when I have the time is to look around antique centres or antique fairs, and I think a few years ago now Sue and I were at the Newark Antiques Fair, which is one of the biggest in the country I think, and looking around the various stalls, and occasionally you come across interesting things. I like quirky things, something that has history behind it, a story if you like. And there's one particular stallholder who's coming towards the end of the day, I guess, and he decided to sell out everything off. I think it was for £1, very, very cheap anyway. We like those kind of stalls. Anyway, we looked through the various boxes that were lying around and came across this. It is a carving, a wooden carving, and I'm sure you've guessed that it features represents Moses. There's the sheep down at the bottom because though Moses was brought up in the palace, Pharaoh's palace in Egypt, he killed somebody, and so he had to flee as a fugitive, and he went to a place called Midian and became a shepherd looking after his father-in-law's sheep and goats. And it's there in the desert place that he saw this strange sign, a bush that was on fire but not burning up. There's the burning bush, and it is there that God called him to lead the people. God said, "I've chosen you, Moses, to lead my people out of slavery in Egypt to the promised land." And Moses has this big argument with God about why he can't possibly do it, but God promises to be with him, and Moses eventually says yes. And then the story moves on, and we see here the 10 Commandments. God gave Moses the tablets of stone on which were written the 10 Commandments, which Moses revealed to the people. This is what God says, how we should live. And I mention that because we've just started at church a series of Sunday services looking at each of the 10 Commandments. Last Sunday was the first in the series where we looked at the first commandments, which says, "You shall have no other gods before me." And the second, which we'll be looking at this coming week, Sunday, it talks about you shall have no idols. Don't create idols which you worship, because the worship belongs to God. And so I've been thinking about that, and really this second commandment, no idols, is really looking at how we love God. Do we make God our priority? And one of the illustrations that Tom, our vicar, used last week is that of marriage. That when you marry somebody, you enter into a covenant relationship, and you make a commitment of faithfulness and priority, that person who you've married, your husband or your wife, is your priority. You're faithful to them. You put them first. There's no room in a marriage for others in that sense. You're committed one to another, and it's the Bible uses that image of marriage to describe or illustrate our relationship with God, our covenant commitment to God. When we commit ourselves to him, he has to come first. Now, today's idols are different. We don't tend to worship idols made of stone or wood, but idols come in very different shapes and forms. We could think of the idol of money, of possessions, of career, of holidays, of sport, music, sex, family. Now, all these things are not evil in themselves. They're actually good, wholesome, if we address them in the right way. They are gifts from God to us. But if we abuse them, if they become an idol, if you like, if we worship them, we put them first as a priority, then we're on very dangerous ground. A couple of weeks ago, a visiting preacher was talking with us on the thorny subject of giving. And one of the things that he said, or one of the questions that he asked, was one which I've been really turning around in my mind. and a statement that he made. He said, if there's something in your life which you can't let go of, for example, if God says, I want you to give up that thing, if you can't let go of it, then you don't own that thing. That thing owns you, has a possession on you. Like the rich young ruler who came to Jesus, and Jesus says, recognizes that he's, in many ways, he's seeking to please God and live a godly life. But Jesus saw that his possessions, his money, had a hold of him. And Jesus said, just give your possessions to the poor, then come and follow me. But the man couldn't. He couldn't let go of his possessions because they had a hold on him. He didn't really own them. They owned him, if you like. And that he went away very sad, and Jesus was sad. In fact, I'm preaching on this second commandment: you shall have no idols, on Sunday, and it's been really challenging to think about this. Are there idols in my life? Are there things I can really, in a very real way, put before God? So the question to ask ourselves is this: what is my priority? What are my priorities in life? How do I spend my time, my energy, my money? With what? Is God really first in my life? Or do I have actually things which you could call idols, which come sometimes before him? It's a really important question. Do we put God first in our lives? Do we worship him alone? Well, I'll leave that with you. I'll continue to toss it over in my mind. I want to put God first, but do I always? So I'll leave that with you. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.